what's the real difference between just existing and truly being alive? Today, we're going to dig into a really powerful idea that actually uses a fundamental law of physics to answer that very question. It's a whole framework for making life more vibrant, and it all starts with one simple choice. So here it is, the core idea in a nutshell. Our vitality, our aliveness really boils down to this one thing. Are we open or are we closed? Being open means you're constantly exchanging energy with the world around you, and that is what leads to growth. But being isolated, well, that cuts off the exchange, and that leads to stagnation, which is basically a kind of living death. To really get this, we've got to kind of shift our perspective on what life even is. You see, it's not some static thing that we have, it's this dynamic process that we're constantly in. Life is a system built entirely on this give and take, this constant exchange with everything around it. The principle here is just stunningly simple, right? The more you exchange with the world, ideas, energy, experiences, the more vibrant you become. The less you exchange, the more you start to fade. And this isn't just some feel-good metaphor. It applies to our bodies, our minds, our spirits. Openness isn't just a nice idea, it's a biological necessity. And you know what's wild? This idea doesn't just stop with us as individuals. It scales all the way up. The source makes this really powerful comparison to a nation. Think about it. Open, inclusive societies that welcome new people and new ideas, they tend to thrive. But the ones that close their borders and their minds, they often stagnate and decline. It's the exact same dynamic, just on a massive scale. Okay, so what's the flip side? What actually happens when a system or, a person gets too closed off? What's the real cost of that isolation? Well, the source material has a name for it. The process of increasing entropy. The source brings up a really deep, very human example, depression. What's its defining characteristic? A withdrawal from the world. It's this fear of contact, a refusal to communicate. It's the ultimate act of closing the system down, and we all know it has devastating effects on a person's vitality. To really drive this home, the essay hits us with this pretty intense thought experiment. Just imagine for a second. You take a smart, energetic person, and you completely cut them off from the world. No people, no books, no new information, nothing. What do you think happens to them? Yeah, the consequences they're horrifying, but they make the point crystal clear. Without any new input, without that energy exchange, the mind and the spirit just start to decay. The system literally begins to break down. This isn't just an idea. It's the real-world cost of total isolation. And there's actually a scientific name for this process of decay, entropy. It's a fundamental law of physics, a law of thermodynamics. It basically says that any closed system, if you just leave it alone, will inevitably move toward disorder, chaos, and collapse. The big idea here is that our lives, our minds, our societies, they all operate under this very same law. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. The source anticipates a very clever counter-argument you might be thinking of right now. What about people who seem to defy this rule? Like farmers in remote villages with pretty limited contact with the outside world, who often live these long, healthy lives. How does that fit in? And the answer is a super important distinction. The essay argues that's about life pressure, not vitality. Sure, lower stress might help you live longer, but that's totally different from living a vibrant life. See, longevity and vitality are not the same thing. Vitality is fueled by that constant exchange, not just by the absence of stress. So if entropy, this natural slide into disorder, is the big problem, then what's the fix? This is where the whole theory becomes incredibly practical. The source proposes a really powerful antidote. It's a concept called negative entropy. This right here is the key. Negative entropy is basically any new, fresh energy that you introduce into your system to fight off that decay. It can be something material, like healthy food, something spiritual, like a new perspective, or something mental, like a fascinating new idea. It's the stuff that recharges you and keeps your system humming. So let's make this super practical. The essay gives some great examples. If a person's world is falling apart from heartbreak, the most powerful negative entropy isn't just kind words, it's a new connection. If their hope is collapsing from poverty, the negative entropy is actual resources. And think about a dying computer. You don't just give it a pep talk, you install new software. You have to introduce something new and vital. The source uses this simple but brilliant analogy to paint the picture. Imagine a little puddle of water. If you just leave it on its own, its entropy increases. It gets stagnant, smelly, and eventually it just dries up. But if you constantly add fresh water, that's the negative entropy. It flushes out the old, stale water and stays clear and full. Our lives are just like that puddle. All right, so this is the million-dollar question, right? How do we actually do this? How do we actively go out and find this life-giving negative entropy to keep our own personal puddles from turning into sludge? Well, the how is all about actively, deliberately opening ourselves up to new things. It means making space in our minds for new ideas, new people, new experiences, even if it means letting go of old, comfortable beliefs that just aren't serving us anymore. And maybe the toughest one of all, it's challenging the assumption that we already have all the answers. That is the deepest form of openness. You know, there's this one beautiful line from the text that just captures this entire philosophy perfectly. If you can stay humble and open like a vast, empty valley, you have the capacity to receive everything the world has to offer. All the rivers of knowledge, experience, and connection can just flow right into you. And that really just leaves us with a final, powerful thought to take away. Looking at your own life right now, your work, your relationships, your mindset, where is the entropy starting to build up? What fresh water, what new energy, what kind of negative entropy does your system need most at this moment? It's a powerful question to carry with you.